wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Welcome to a prophylactic version of security.
Well, prophylactic.
Prophylactic.
Sure?
Well, I am very certain of that rule.
I don't know.
Prophylactic meaning to protect or guard against disease. And what is the disease we constantly guard about?
Crime?
No, it's the scourge of ignorance. Right?
That's why people are listening.
That's right. The scourge of ignorance. We're trying to enlighten the common man about security. So again, welcome to Security Guy Radio. I'm Chuck Harold with my host,
Paul Tally-Ho Bristow.
No, I do not have a name for myself because I make these up as I talk, but you interrupted my little flow, so I have to
As we can
just
tell.
be Chuck Harold today. It's kind of sad, actually.
And
Well,
excuse the cough. If
yes,
you hear it. Anyway,
we have a low budget. We cannot afford a cough button.
No cough button.
So Brian will have to edit those coughs out later, possibly. Well, today we're going to talk about everything you did not want to know about security guards. Not
Officers.
I
Security
emphasize-
officers or guards?
Well, some people
We use
say
guards.
guards, officers, hosts. Hey, you know. Well, when we get into this, we're going to find out that actually means something.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a problem.
So we're going to start out this with a little quiz for everybody today. I think you'll find this interesting. We're going to tell you, we have a lot of stories today to tell as we bring you some statistics and things like that, but I wanted to start out with 3 stories, and we're going to guess whether they're union guards, non-union guards, meaning, let's say, contract guards, right, or in-house guards, because that's the 3 things we're going to talk about today.
Well, there are union contract guards.
Yeah, that's true, but we only have 4 segments, so we're only going to talk about
yeah,
3 of them. All right, so here's the story. I want you to tell me if this story has to do with a guard that was contract guard, an in-house guard, right, or let's say a union guard. A guard was shooting animals at an antenna site in Florida. What would you say about that? Take a guess now. Paul does not know these questions ahead of time. He's only guessing. But we can't have dead air time while you're guessing.
No, I've got to say, just knowing the business, unfortunately, I've got to say that that's probably a contract security officer.
That is,
just
in
because of
fact,
the business.
Brian,
Yeah.
can we have a special effects bell for Paul for getting that right?
But the only reason I would know that is just because
You're an
You
expert.
I'm an expert.
Right.
You tend to get contract guards on that.
SecurityGuyRadio.com, the only show that protects you with our knowledge, because we used to be experts, and now we're radio show hosts.
Yeah.
All right, here's question number 2. Brian, I want you to jump on this. We should be asking Brian these questions.
That's true.
No.
Yeah,
Mr. Brian,
Right.
that's a good
a
point.
guard is found sleeping. Well, we can't say he was sleeping. A guard is found in the guard booth wearing sunglasses. So on camera, you cannot actually tell if he's sleeping or not sleeping. Would that be a contract guard, a union guard, or an in-house
Now,
guard?
I've got to add something to this
Okay, go ahead.
because I know this one. By the way, these are all personal experiences.
True stories.
True stories, personal experiences. But we're not going to name the company, location.
Paul's not, but I have more
whatever.
insurance than Paul, so I may.
I just don't want to get
Okay,
in trouble.
help Mr. Brian here. You can answer the question, Brian.
But anyway, this one took place at 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So officer standing in a gatehouse with glasses on, actually sitting in a gatehouse with dark glasses on at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, Brian, is that a?
That's a contract guard, right?
Give yourself a gong on that. It's incorrect.
Yeah, absolutely wrong.
Incorrect.
Completely wrong.
Hang on. I will give myself...
Brian does not have his sound effects.
Hang on, I got it right here.
What you just said
You've got that
is one of the
completely
most
wrong.
insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this...
Okay, now, if
That's
that
mine.
was shorter, we'd be using that all through the show.
Actually, I have a story about a guard who fell asleep. I snuck into the Staples Center one time like that. security guard was dead asleep, walked right past him into a area I wasn't supposed to be in, and then got
Security
caught by
Guy Radio does not endorse crimes of any type.
Nope.
Okay.
How did I get that one wrong? Explain it to me.
Well, we're gonna as you listen to the show, you will learn as you always do through osmosis and other methods.
Perceptions.
All right, here's another story, Brian. This guard department hired a police officer that had been fired for a bad shooting. All the guards took their breaks at the end of the day and saved them all up and went home early. They borrowed cars from the people that worked at the business and just drove them around and went to play tennis and such. Would that be a union guard, a non-union guard, or an in-house guard?
I'm going to go with union.
Incorrect again.
Incorrect again.
That's incorrect. Okay. That was an in-house guard force, a proprietary guard force, private guard force, as we call it. So we're going to go over all this stuff today. We'll be talking about 3 types of guard forces.
Now, I want to just tell one.
Oh, please.
Before we go on,
right.
because this was my first, I wrote this down, because this was my first experience of security officer issues after coming out of the police department. So this is an officer that is caught masturbating in a...
well, we did say it was a prophylactic show.
Prophylactic, so he wasn't wearing one. Masturbating in magazines of an executive's in an executive office, and then he would close the magazine and be on his way.
Brian, that's a pretty tough one. What would you say about that?
Brian?
That's not good for the magazine.
Okay, that's insightful, but is that a union, non-union contract or in-house guard?
That's an in-house guard.
Incorrect again.
No, in actual fact, it's correct.
Well, it's a union guard, but in-house.
In-house, yeah. Well,
Union's
yeah.
a different animal. We're going to
In-house
find out it's
guard.
different.
Yeah.
Because,
Officer.
let me ask you a question. Was he terminated?
Yes.
You sustained a termination?
With extreme prejudice.
Well, okay.
Sorry.
Well, good for that. All right, so we'll talk about
But that was actually my first experience of
your first disciplinary action.
Disciplinary action involved in a security officer, yeah. It was pretty
Incredible. All right, so there's 3 types of guards here. There's we're going to call in-house, and that's proprietary, right? And what that means is in the state of California anyway, I don't know we're heard in Russia and Saudi Arabia and other places where they probably don't have these rules, but in California, if you have a guard force in your private business, you technically have to be licensed with the state. And they call it a proprietary guard license, right? It's a is this microphone on, Paul? Are you my guest today?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if we
it's a
should...
PP something, right? And then there's
PSO program.
Yeah, and then there's union. Now, union can be an in-house guard. Usually it's private, but can also be union and contract. You can have a contract guard force and be union. And then there's just strictly a contract guard force where you're hiring guards as a second party. So I thought we'd start the show with things statistical.
Well, I'm just wondering if people actually believe whether or not we know what we're talking about. I just wonder if we should go over our history.
If you did that, you would have to disclose possible connections to these stories. But my attorney advises me I can't. It's up to you.
You've only got to look on LinkedIn, right?
All right, so why are we experts? I don't know. Let's see. Me, policeman, 13 years. 9 years at Fox and Disney, in-house union guards and contract guards. And then almost 10 years at 2 guard companies who shall remain anonymous, doing contract guard work. And private consultancy for 20-something years and private investigations for 30, I think. That's me.
10 years police officer, but does that help you in the security field?
That's absolutely not.
Exactly.
We're going to find out
that it's shocking.
The police experience has nothing to do with security, actually.
Well, policemen get in a lot of trouble, but it's different problems, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's not a prerequisite per se. But.
Yeah, but and then 20 years running a in-house security force, plus running a great deal of contract for the in-house program, as it were.
Well, we both did the Academy Awards
7 years contract.
Yeah, Academy. I did the Academy Awards for 5 years. You did it for like 3.
Yeah.
Where we hired 500 guards. So we know a lot about guards. Your police work, London, Metropolitan Police.
Did a lot of work with
10 Downing Street and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Bip, cheerio, Scotland, y'all, and all that.
Tally-ho.
All right, so we kind of know what we're talking about. And we're going to give you guys some insights into what the business is about, because I think you're going to find some of this stuff really interesting. So here's some statistics from our friends at the Occupational Employment Statistics Division of
I bet you couldn't say that after a drink.
bls.gov. All right. So this is about guards. Now look at this. This is actually fairly current for May 2013. We usually don't get data that current. So here are the industries with the highest levels of employment in the security field, right? Number one, with 626,000, or 75% of all guards in this country, are employed in the investigation and security services. So that's going to be private eyes. It's going to be private detectives, guard companies, such, right? That's the majority of where the guards are employed. Their average wage in that industry is $25,000 a year. And if that surprises you, that's the annual mean wage, which means 50% of those are lower and 50% may be higher. But it's kind of sad because that's kind of the average in LA. It's about $22,000. Next in that industry is local government. So local government only has about 39,000 jobs in that industry, which I found surprising.
I
Did
thought
you?
it was more than that.
Yeah. So the government probably is being protected by a combination of, some TSA sort of people and private. And then next in the industry is general medicine and surgical hospitals. I found that interesting. We had our hospital expert on here several months ago. 37,000 people in the hospital industry. Schools, elementary and secondary schools, only 29,000.
Well, that makes sense when you look at a lot of the schools haven't got security.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they should, right? I mean, you think they
should. There's people there that they're not calling security, but are actually doing a security function.
Right. They sit at the desk and they're, a student watcher.
Which is another show on its own.
And then the last one, by the way, elementary school, kind of guards make $31,000. Hospital guards make $32,000. Local government guards make $32,000. And then travel accommodation, which I think is hotels, brings in 26,000 employees and about $29,000 a year. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Yeah. So again, the vast majority, 75%, are in the private kind of guard investigation sector, and then we drop down to basically less than 1% in most of the other ones. It's really kind of interesting. Now, what's that? Now, you take the next one.
Oh, so this is industries with the highest concentration of employment in this occupation, which is interesting. Investigation and security services, again, makes sense, 626,000. 690. That's exactly the same number as the one above. Well, I suppose it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, if that's, not necessarily, because look what drops in next.
Yeah,
for the
support services, facility support services.
Facilities have a higher concentration of people employed, although local government employs more people, which is kind of interesting.
And again, the wage, 25,000, 27 a year. Performing arts, now that drops right down, 6,000.
Yeah, that's sports centers.
And again, that's sort of surprising.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising. Yeah.
29,000 annual pay, a little bit better, slightly, but spectator sports, only 7,000. So again, that's a little bit more surprising. I would have thought there'd be a lot more security officers in that field. Drinking places.
Now you should know the answer to this.
I do. 19,000, which I suppose if you've only got one bouncer at a bar, that type of thing. I'm assuming it's 25,000. Again, I'm assuming most of the salary is paid in alcohol.
Yeah, that's probably true. Well, to back up a little bit, I should have started this for a stat, but there's approximately 1,066,000 guards employed in the United States, and that average for all those 1 million guards, it's approximately $27,000 a year, which is kind of interesting. An hourly wage, 10% earn $8 an hour, 25% earn $9.54. The 50% median.
What's the minimum wage at the moment in California?
$8.50, right?
Yeah.
So
what's the federal minimum wage? 7 something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is lower actually. And there's actually a training wage in California. We can pay $7.25. Then the medium national wage is about $11.57, and 90% in the 90th percentile, which means a lower percentage of people make 20. All right, so top paying industries for this occupation. Now this, all you guards listening, I don't want you to quit tomorrow, but here's where the money is. Top paying industries for this occupation. Natural gas distribution.
Interesting.
Okay. This is weird. It employs about 200 guards, which is 0.18% of the industry employment. But their average median wage is $48,000 a year.
That's good money.
That's a place to be. And then next is electrical power generation transmission, $5,000 in that. So gas is lower but higher paid. Electricity's higher.
And they're paying them a good wage, which makes sense.
$21 an hour, $23 an hour for the natural gas.
Which actually, that's good to know, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it is good to know. We're being protected.
Consider what they're looking after.
Yeah. And then remediation and other waste management, $45,000 a year. There's money in garbage. Andy knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go down to performing arts companies. There's about 1,200 guards in that at $44,000 a year, and iron steel mills about 270 and 43,000. So it's very interesting how this stuff lays out. What's the next one there for you?
Employment by states, which is interesting.
Oh, highest employment.
And this sort of goes by what you'd think, but I guess we're going to get into that in the next segment.
In our next segment. Back in a minute on Security Guy Radio.
Stand by.
That's securityguyradio.com. Hi, everyone. This is Chuck Harold, your host of Security Guy Radio. Please join me on Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. for my special interview with Chief Jim McDonald, the top contender in the race for our new Los Angeles County Sheriff. I'll be asking Chief McDonald some insider questions to see if he has what it takes to run the largest sheriff's department in the world. So join me on Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. on Security Guy Radio. Visit us on the web at securityguyradio.com. Sorry, Mr. Brown. Welcome back to securityguyradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
We're going to do another story.
I didn't finish my thing.
And I came up with a show title for you today.
Yes.
Chuck, let me take a selfie, Harold.
Okay.
As you were taking a selfie right now on the break. Right
now
now
you've now disclosed my secret tweet that I was going to spring on everybody, but we'll wait for that. So welcome back. Now I have to read it off the sign. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and of course securityguyradio.com. All right, so finish your Mr. Paul. Finish your statistic there on states with the highest employment level in this occupation.
And this isn't any surprise, I don't think. California, 140,850.
Now, by the way,
officers.
there are almost 300,000 licensed guards in California, but employment-wise, we got half of them working, which is why some of these stats sound funny when there's low amount of guards. That doesn't mean they're employed; they're just licensed.
Well, and to me, the hourly wage doesn't connect with me after seeing what I've seen in the last few years with the contract side of the business. 13.27. I mean, that's got to be bringing in a lot of proprietary.
That's high in L.A. That I've seen.
Yeah. New York, 105,000, which again, it's no surprise that they're the second.
$15 wage.
$15 wage, good. Texas, 87,000, $12 wage. Florida, 80,000, $11 wage. Illinois.
Well, that must
way
be
to say it? Illinois.
Illinois, yeah. It's Chicago. It's corrupt city on earth.
13 bucks an hour.
So states with the highest concentration of jobs and location quotients. All right, now that location quotient thing gave me a headache.
I can't even say it.
Well, it just basically means that it's a way of quantifying how concentrated a particular industry or cluster is. All right. So not to get too deep into this, but highest concentration of jobs. Now, that doesn't mean you're even employed, but it is the highest concentration, is District of Columbia. Now, that's interesting, right? So more guards in California, but not a high concentration of guards. In fact, California's not on this list, 13,000 approximately. And the number of employment per 1,000 jobs is about 20 people. Nevada, now that makes sense, right? Vegas and all that kind of stuff, high concentration. Hawaii, why Hawaii?
Hawaii's strange, isn't it? Sort of.
Sugarcane plantations, I don't know what. Tourism, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. All the hotels.
Yeah, New York makes sense, 105,000 people, average wage 15. And then Maryland,
what the hell is it?
Well, maybe because of military bases or something. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of interesting.
So,
top paying states for this occupation.
Yeah, wages. DC, again.
Yep.
Who knew?
$17
an hour. Alaska.
Go to Alaska.
$17 an hour. Iowa.
I don't know
why Iowa. 16 really. So $15.95. Maryland, $15.87. Idaho, $15.23.
The garden potatoes or something in Idaho.
God knows.
That's it. Now, you, from my experience, tell me what you think. In L.A., you rarely see these wages for guards.
No. Unless it's proprietary.
Yeah, usually
the only place you're going to see that is proprietary.
LA is kind of like, $10 is starting out to be fair, 11, 12, it's very interesting. Let's see, metropolitan areas with the highest employment level in this occupation. highest employment level. So New York, that kind of makes sense, 81,000. Now this is interesting. Los Angeles, Long Beach, Glendale, because there's a lot of port employment down there for guards, right? Chicago, it makes sense, third largest city, 41,000. Washington, D.C., Alexandria, 34,000. Sugarland, Houston, Sugarland. Dallas, let's see, Atlanta, Miami Beach, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. So again, these wages for these areas with the highest employment.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, you still got wages of 15 an hour, 12, 13, 17. It's 28,000 to 31,000. I mean, it really needs to be higher. I mean, isn't Europe? Don't we have higher wages for security in Europe?
Yeah, it's a little
profession.
Bit more of a profession.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but it's concentration of guards. Now this is very similar to the other one we went through. I think Las Vegas, which makes sense.
Yep.
Right. 17,000 per one, I guess. Hourly wage. I expected the wage to be a little bit higher out there than $13. Oh, this is the one we was talking about, Sumter, South Carolina. And we couldn't work out.
Well,
what
we
the hell
did
was in Sumter,
because
South Carolina.
the crack research department, Security Guy Radio, happened to look this up. Sumner.
Oh, this is news to me.
Sumter.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it. Sumter, South Carolina, where my friend Dennis lives. Only 660 guards, but here's the problem: their murder rate higher than national average. The rape rate higher than national average. Robbery higher. Assault higher. Burglary higher. Everything's higher than the national average in this town of 40,000 people. Yeah. So they wind up as having the highest concentration of security guards.
What the hell is in that town?
So
don't move there.
There's an Air Force base close by, but I'm not sure that accounts for it. That's kind of weird.
So there's your explanation to Hawaii. It's all Honolulu.
Like one place, yeah. Then you got these are like tourist destinations. You got Palm Beach, Atlantic City. That all kind of makes sense.
El Centro, California.
So we got top paying jobs. 44,000. You can make your most money in Amarillo, Texas, for some reason. A teeny little town. Look at that, San Luis Obispo, 43,000.
Yeah, I was looking at that. It's interesting.
Well, that's not, I go up there all the time. There's a prison up there.
Well, that's why
it's the prison.
Because of you guys.
Yeah, and this might be part of these statistics or the prison. Doesn't Springfield, Illinois, have a prison?
Yes.
Could be these prison guards. Yeah, the government doesn't tell you all the information. So anyway, interesting stuff. Maybe stuff you did not want to know about security guards, as we stated earlier.
Or if you're thinking about becoming a security guard, move to these high-paying places.
That's right. Make some real money. So we're going to take a little debate time here, and we're going to get into whether it's better to be an in-house guard force, a union guard force, or a contract guard force. Now, I tend to kind of go with contract, right? But if we have in-house, let's talk about in-house first. We talked about earlier. In California, you have to have a license to hire your guards inside your own business now. Unless it's a studio.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And what's the other exemption?
Oh, I don't know.
I think there isn't. There is no. I
Probably,
think it's studio carved out.
I thought it was only studios,
Right. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? Which position are you going to take? That it's good to be in-house or not good to be in-house?
I'm actually in the middle. I mean, it just depends how both sides are done. I think you can get and we'll get into this a little bit more, but I think you can get an excellent contract, service, and a terrible proprietary service. The
problem with in-house is that you really need a subject matter expert. And if you want to get somebody that understands the guard business, if you're not a big corporation, right, you can't afford a $100,000 guy that knows what he's doing. And if you employ a $30,000, guard to be the post commander and make your guards run around inside, you run the risk of being non-compliant.
Exactly.
And one big reason that most people go out to contract instead of do it in-house is the shifting of risk, right?
Yeah.
You're shifting the risk to my insurance carrier to say, you know what, I don't want to get sued for screwing up the guard force, so I'm going to hire a contract guy.
But do you get rid of it completely?
You don't get rid of it completely. Because in L.A. especially, you can convict a cheese sandwich, so you can sue anybody, right? So I think, tell me why you think in-house is great. I'm not sure it is great because I think you just have too many problems to manage.
It's a mindset from the company. I mean, and you're looking at two different types of business. If you're looking at a small business, which we see when we're doing the consulting stuff, you go into these small businesses, they're not run properly, they haven't got the infrastructure. you're going to have problems with that in-house program, right? But I think from a large company like the studios, right, they're willing to provide the infrastructure, provide the professional management that security officer force needs to run.
Right.
Okay.
And they're diligent. They're on it all the time.
They're diligent. They're on it all the
time.
Training.
Training.
Fabulous programs that they use, and most of the large proprietary companies have that infrastructure, right? And it's a belief system in it. It's a belief system from the company.
They actually, I think the position is they believe that in-house guards are more loyal. They're protecting the company better. I completely think that's wrong. Personally, from my personal experience. What happens is they become complacent. They think they have an entitlement attitude sometimes. You can't discipline me because I know the guy that runs the department over here is my buddy. There becomes favoritism, as we saw in some of these jobs we've worked on, where they just hire who they want because they can, and that doesn't mean he's the best guy. And, there's a lot of internal theft with in-house guards, right? Am I wrong about that?
Well, it's everywhere, I think.
It is everywhere, but I just always lean towards there's a little more of the internal theft with internal employees because why? They know everything. They work here. They give more access to things.
But then you're going to have that same thing with a contract security officer that's there for several years, aren't you? So I don't think, that makes it.
It can happen, but...
I think the big thing with a proprietary security force and comparing it with a contract security force is that you can get the same from a contract security force if you provide them with the same infrastructure and money and all the rest of it that the proprietary security force gets, right?
Which, ironically, they never do.
They never do.
Yeah, we'll talk about
and that's why it fails sometimes.
Well, here's an example. I had a hotel that I was a contractor to. They used to have in-house, and they used to have the bathrooms open for the in-house guards. But when the contract guards came in, for some reason, contract guards don't have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They went down behind the back corridor in the basement, and they piddled all over the...
Which they're going to do because they've got to go to the restroom.
They've got to go to the bathroom, right? Why wouldn't the client say, let's just open up the door? Because they don't trust the contract guard, which ironically, they go ahead and trust the in-house guy, who causes the same sort of problems, really. Yeah, so it's... I just lean towards contract because it's easier, but I don't know. What other problems can we have with... why is in-house, you think, better on the balance? If you're 51% in-house, tell me what's your best argument?
Well, again, I think they're better on the balance because most companies are willing to pay for the infrastructure.
But they're more expensive.
They're more... if you pay for if you're going to go contract and you're willing to pay to get that same service that you used to get from an in-house security force, you're going to pay basically the same money.
Well, except for fringe.
Not a lot of difference, apart from a little bit of fringe.
Fringe meaning benefits, okay? My fringe at a non-disclosed, non-named studio, was to take the guard's wage, and I think their average wage was $19 an hour, which is fair. But their benefits package on top of that, 47%.
But again, why was that benefit package so heavy? They're paying for their medical, et cetera, et cetera. If you pay for the same type of benefit package for the contract officer, which gives you that loyalty,
right.
You're going to be paying the same type of money.
But for us, as the executives, our benefits package was 28%. So a guard could get his head chopped off. They'll give him a new one for free.
That's because the guards shot up in the workman's comp for some reason.
That's right. Well, we'll talk about that when we come back. Some of the workers' comp horror stories. Yeah. All right, back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Back in a minute. Hi, everyone. This is Chuck Harold, your host of Security Guy Radio. Please join me on Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. for my special interview with Chief Jim McDonald, the top contender in the race for our new Los Angeles County Sheriff. I'll be asking Chief McDonald some insider questions to see if he has what it takes to run the largest sheriff's department in the world. So join me on Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. on Security Guy Radio. Visit us on the web at securityguyradio.com. Hi, everyone. This is Chuck Harold, your host of Security Guy Radio. Tune in on Monday, June 2nd at 7 p.m. for my really cool interview with Mike Howard, Chief Security Officer from Microsoft. From his beginnings as a police officer with Oakland PD to his 22 years with the CIA, I think you're going to find Mike's interview fascinating. So join us on Monday, June 2nd at 7 p.m. exclusively on Security Guy Radio, and visit us on the web at securityguyradio.com. Welcome back to Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Follow us on the web at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Mr. Paul, you were finishing up your thought about the in-house people during the break. Price drives it, right? Ironically, true. If you put the money and the effort into an in-house guard force, I will agree with you. It is the best way to do it, but they don't.
They don't do this. Companies don't do the same when they want to go contract.
No, when they want to go contract, they want the lowest possible price.
But clients, and I was the same when I was I believe I've lost my microphone, have I?
No, you're good. I can hear you.
Okay. I mean, I was the same when I ran a certain in-house guard force that, not knowing that part of the business, you thought that the contract security company had some miracle supervision
That's right.
wand or something out there that it costs you as an in-house proprietary force a certain amount of money to supervise the officers, but the contract security force doesn't need that money to supervise those officers.
It's bizarre.
And now I'm sort of helping clients move between in-house and contract to in-house sometimes. The understanding that you got to have that you can't do this stuff for nothing. It's beyond belief that at one point I didn't realise that contract security companies need that funding. It's very, very interesting.
It is interesting.
But I think the from an in-house perspective, they are better. But why are they better? And it's simply because there's a lot of funding, and that does produce loyalty. The fact that you're getting benefits, and the fact that you're being supervised well, and the fact that you're invited to the Christmas party, places that still have them, that produces that loyalty. Okay, proper training and all the rest of the stuff.
It also breeds contempt.
It gets back to funding.
Breeds contempt if you don't treat them properly, which isn't true of all three of the different versions.
only if you don't supervise people properly. Right. That's where the contempt comes, and a lot of it is contempt for the people that are supervising because they don't have respect for them.
That's right.
So it's poor supervision. It all gets back to supervision. It all gets back to management. It's not the officer's fault.
It's never the officer's fault.
It's never the officer's fault.
I really believe that. Yeah. If the guy is wearing sunglasses at the front gate at 2 a.m, pretending he's awake when he's asleep, the supervisor's not doing their job.
Yeah, Or you haven't got that guy on board. He's not on board with the program.
He's not part of the program.
Right,
that's right.
He's not part of the program.
So let's talk about union. A lot of stories here. A lot of interesting stories.
I'm in favour of union security forces.
Okay.
Actually.
Let me...
And I hate to say that because
let me take a...
I fought the unions for so long. But,
well, right. I got along with them, actually.
Yeah.
What's interesting about the union guard is they want you to follow a bunch of rules, which is kind of, what we want to do in security anyway in law enforcement is follow rules, right? But the union guard will hold you to the exact letter, second, minute, day, time of that rule. And if you deviate, you got a grievance, you got someone in your office, you got, got things going on. On the other hand, as my law professor said, who was said, I think Chief Justice Cardozo said this, the law is an ass. It's not a complete ass. All right, it serves you, but doesn't completely serve you. So they can get themselves into pickles by sticking to these rigid rules and then, really kind of box themselves into a position where they can't sustain it. We had, at a place that was a union, let's just say a studio. In fact, I remember this. You called me up and said, listen, I want to do an audit. I got this list of people here on workers' comp and blah, 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 and we don't know who's who and what the cases are and all that kind of thing. And we wound up having $1 million in workers' comp claims, right? The funny one was we found that there were about 5 guards that had been dead for 3 to 4 years that were still getting paid, full paycheck. And we couldn't figure out who had the paycheck and when it went. I mean, so those are some problems with that.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
is that because it's union? See, that's the question. I don't think it is.
Let me tell you why I think it is to a degree. because I think managers become gun shy. That was not my problem, by the way, which is why I was not put on the negotiation teams, all right? But I think you can get gun shy to respond to things or poke into things because you're going to get a terrible pushback that you don't want to handle. If you're a weak manager.
See, again, that depends on the management. I mean, I don't think, at Fox we was never gun shy. I mean, if there was people doing stuff wrong, they were. And what I liked about the union, we, and I hate to say the word got rid of people, but, we terminated people when they needed to be terminated. But what I did like about it was, number one, you didn't have to deal with individual officers for pay raises and all the rest of
That's
stuff.
true.
And that saved you an almighty amount of time.
It's true.
Okay. Now, the downside of that is that you can't give those good officers that are trying hard the benefit of an extra pay raise above the chap that isn't trying so hard. But then that again comes back to management and supervision. You've got to get on those people that aren't.
Okay, but here's the dilemma.
Right? So it all comes back to management.
It does. Discipline's harder, though. I mean, you can sustain a termination on something really crazy and out of line.
Yeah.
But for the things that are in the middle, where you'd naturally terminate somebody, you run up against a much more difficult ability to sustain a termination.
But does it encourage working with people?
Well, here's the deal.
I mean, what I've seen in contract is that people are terminated for doing nothing.
That's true, too. That's an extreme.
Nobody wants to take the time in actually dealing with the problem and producing a better employee.
Yeah, but you know who does that is the client usually. I don't like him, get rid of him. You don't like him. That's not a criteria to fire people. But, I mean, you have things like, I had a guy that we caught changing his doctor's notes.
And that's a problem?
Not anymore. Not under the Affordable Care Act. It doesn't matter. But he would take his doctor's note that said, I have 1 day sick leave, and he put a 0 after it. All right? Or he'd have one that said 2, and he put a 1, make it a 14 days.
I still remember this one. Yeah.
All right? So he had about, we think, as many as 60 days off in a year, and it turned out what he was doing was going to surfing contests.
Yeah.
Nice guy. Very good guard, by the way.
Yeah.
A very good worker.
Apparently.
Good surfer, good guard, been there a long time. We fire him, grievance, hearing, all the rules you got to follow, right? That takes a lot of time, by the way, right? So here was his defense from his representative. I really think we should put him back to work and give him a chance because he was honest about lying.
Well, that's
what? Mr. Bryan, even you can understand that somebody saying they were honest about lying makes no sense. Is that correct? Does that make any sense to you? Okay, it does not. So, we actually sustained that termination, but we had to go through this whole dog and pony show.
I would say I never lost one termination at Fox.
No, I didn't, but it takes you a long time to do it, right?
It does.
And then if you get that kind of thing, you get the guard who's doing a good job is considered equal to the guy that's going surfing.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
And that can create something I think that's unique from in-house and contract. And by the way, when I say union, you can have a union contract guard. Yeah. That's a whole other animal. But it creates politics beyond anything you've ever seen, okay? And it allows guards to think they can get away with something. I remember when we started at Fox, you handed me this rule book and said, go through this and see what you can do with this policy manual. And I think you had 176 guards shall not do this.
I think there was actually probably 80 years of guards.
It was 80
officers
years.
Doing stuff that was in that guard.
So, it's a union policy manual, so you have to say guards cannot do this. And if it wasn't on the list, sometimes they'd say, well, you didn't say I couldn't drive a golf cart off a cliff. I mean, what's the problem?
Actually, I think 9/11 changed a lot of that philosophy.
It did change a little bit.
It definitely changed a lot of that.
So what do we have for kind of in-house, in-house proprietary union guys? So we got a guard that stole the tandem bicycle from the moonlighting set, and he was riding around in the studio. Remember that? Take that out.
No, that was a contract security officer.
Well, there was a contract?
Yeah. Now, that was going to be my secret question.
How about number 8? Take number 8 on the Olympic Hill, remember? You came in and you were driving down Olympic and you saw the guards sitting up on the hill and they're...
Again, they were contract.
No, they weren't.
They were.
Well, pick one on here that's a union. Stop defending it. You have to come up with something.
Well, it is a good one. So I was called, and I won't tell you where I was working at the time, but I was called and told that an officer was sleeping in a bed that they were supposed to be looking after as a hot set. And a hot set in the studio business is where nobody's supposed to be disturbing it.
Right.
Okay. And the supervisor reported in, and the officer was actually sleeping in the set for the hot bed, for the hot set. Now, that was in-house.
Right, that's a union, in-house guard, right?
Proprietary.
And now, when we say union, we're not saying, everybody, that makes it bad or good because it's union. It just you do have another layer of management issues to deal with as far as terminations and rules.
Well, I think what we're talking about here and trying to get across is the fact that you hear horror stories, from the general public about security officers, and everybody always assumes that it's the contract side of the security business.
That's true. It's not necessarily.
And it's not. It's interesting that these problems go right across the board.
Well, we had that one guard that was having sex on duty in one of the sets and got pregnant, filed a workers' comp claim, and won. Right?
Yeah.
Because it was an injury on duty, being pregnant. I'm not making this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not making it up. We had that other guard that thought it'd be a great idea to draw a cartoon of his genitals with him in full uniform. It was actually a very good rendering. Good, he was a good artist, and he decided to give it to all the female guards inside one of the buildings. Thought that was kind of funny, and that kind of blew up. But he wasn't so easy to terminate necessarily. A lot of stuff that happens.
I think one of the funniest ones was years and years ago, before I went to Fox, and perhaps I'll have to save that story.
Is it more than 30 seconds long?
Yes.
Okay. Then back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Welcome back to Security Guy Radio with your host, Chuck Harold.
And Paul Tally-Ho, Bristow.
Talking about guards, everything you did not want to know about guards. In fact, these last 2 segments or 3 segments are things I really did not wish I ever knew or ever learned or ever experienced with guards in our profession. Oh, man. Well,
Do you want me to finish my story off?
Yeah, finish your story.
2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. We've got a officer, and then tell me whether you think this is contract or in-house.
Okay.
Whether union,
Mr. Bryan,
whatever.
Are you listening? Okay.
So we've got a security officer on the front gate, and we get a complaint from the neighbours that all they can hear is bird songs and animal songs through the tannoy of the front gate. And this actually wasn't a Fox. Contract or in-house?
Mr. Bryan, you can talk on the radio, by the way. I give you permission.
Contract.
Gets it wrong. He gets it wrong every time.
Gets it wrong every time. No, that's an in-house guy.
I don't know how I graduated high school.
Was it the GED
Well, that
program?
was one of the funniest ones because
No,
the woman actually started repeating the animal noises over the phone.
Could you? So she's trying
yeah.
It was a yellow belly sapsucker or a crow. Which one
it
was
was
it?
very good.
Well, I mean, I agree. So an in-house union program, which we've both had a lot of experience running, works well. Now, here's something interesting. And you know what? I'm going to go back.
But I'm going to go back. Why does it work well?
Well, it works well because of highly paid professionals that supervise well. They know how to get along with the guards, and guards that get a fair salary, right?
Funding.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Well, I could sign for $25,000 and buy something without anybody worrying about it.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of dough, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's kind of interesting is when you go down to the Port of Los Angeles or some of these other places that are, TSA-like places or environments with TWIC cards and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen some things that just make me cringe, right? So TWIC cards at some of these locations. A TWIC card is a government-issued ID card, right? The government
Transport Workers Identification Card.
Right. Very good. Excellent. And allows you, through a government background check, to go into areas that are, secret squirrel, proprietary, whatever. So down, like, let's say in the airport areas, maybe not so much the airport, but the ports, they don't have things like card readers like we had at the studios. So TWIC card, you walk up, you show them the card, and people say, well, sounds good to me, Bill. Go on in. No problem. Well, how about we scan it and see if it's actually real and not something out of a Cheerios box, right? And I started thinking about that, and I thought, you know what? Whoever got into the studio? Rarely that somebody got in the studio. It was super rare. Why? Perimeters, money.
Yeah.
Electronics, money. Training, money, right? And supervision.
Yeah.
And a comprehensive program.
And competent people running it.
Competent people, right? So you actually had some kind of plan to not let people come in and interfere with movies when they're being filmed, because that costs $125,000 a minute to interrupt that. Yeah. So there's motivation behind that. And it's a return on their investment. If what was my budget at... well, the Network Center wasn't very much. It was a couple $1 million. But I think Disney...
The whole studio was about $7 million at Fox.
The one studio, right.
Yeah, $7-8 million.
And what was your corporate budget for the whole country?
That was 30
million. Yeah. And I think at Disney I had about, I don't know, 10 million, something like that. Yeah. And, it all worked out to like $1 a square foot, right? But if they look at that and it prevents somebody from getting on the set of the Pirates of the Caribbean, that's a good return on your investment. And when you go to contract, which we're going to talk about now, the first thing they want to do is go down in price, not invest in infrastructure, not pay money. And my belief in that is because they're shifting risk for insurance reasons, and they have to have it, and that's what they're going for. Not because they want it, not because they think it's preventing something, because they have to have it. So let's talk about contract guards. That's where you hire, the big box guard company or the small company with the boutique guy that's a retired cop and he has guards, and you pay him a certain wage, right? In L.A. and in California, the labor code says you have to do certain things to pay certain amounts of money. So, for example, in downtown L.A., there's some people that are guard companies that are billing $12.50. That's the bill rate.
And lower.
And lower. Okay, now if you pay the guard $8.50 minimum wage, and you got $4 in there to pay for insurance and workers' comp and taxes, it's not financially doable.
No.
So the labor code says you cannot enter into a contract with another company, either guard or janitorial, by the way, where there's not enough money to pay for it.
Yeah.
And how often do we see that? All the time.
Yeah.
And guess what? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
They don't care. And there's places downtown where companies are paying guard companies cash, and guards are paying guard companies are paying the guards cash, right? This lowers the standard, and it lowers the ability to protect people. So I've been in the contract business 10 years now. I'm against that. But is there a benefit?
I think most contract people are.
They're against it, but guess what?
What can they do about it?
Here's the problem. Here's the dirty secret in the guard business. You're constantly chasing new hours. Why do you need new? When I say hours, this is man hours, okay? So for our novice listeners here, one guard sitting at a desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is 168 hours. Two guards sitting there is 336, and, 3 guards is, 5, whatever it is. It's all about billable hours.
Yeah.
The reason you have to get billable hours up and keep adding more hours is because you're kind of blending rates. And I might charge Paul Bristow $18 an hour because he wants to pay it, but I'm going to charge Mary down the street $15 because she doesn't want to pay $18, right? And I have to blend those together. And when I get fired because I'm not servicing the client, I have to have more more hours coming in the back door as they're going, or the front doors are going out the back door. And guard company operators get into a trap where they're constantly chasing hours instead of chasing service. And they're not providing quality service because they say, well, we only bill that guy $12.50. He's not my time to go out there. That's completely wrong. You absolutely have to see the client that's $25 an hour or $15 an hour. Because if you don't, your service goes down, and are you really protecting anything? No.
No. Yeah, I agree.
And it's really about that. So when you don't get a hold of your guard company because he won't call you back, it's because he doesn't think you're that important, and he thinks he's on a sales call, which is more important.
But do you think some of it falls back on the client?
Well, this is an interesting position you and I talked about, and I think you have a lot of good points there. Yeah, all right. So if the client doesn't want to pay you for a clipboard and doesn't want to pay you for a guard tour system and, has a gate where there's 500 cars come in and expects the $9 guard to do it by himself when you need 3 guards, and he beats you up and he fires that guard and your turnover goes up, and you constantly have a new guard there every month, now you have no knowledge or training. You can't afford the training. Eventually, the account costs you money as the contractor.
Yeah.
And you just don't service it anymore, and you lose it. And I got to go out and sell more.
See, I can understand people hiring that just go out and get a guard company for whatever. They're a small company. They just need one security officer. They've never had security before. Okay, so they've got no perception of what
No.
security is. Okay, I can understand those clients, or whatever you want to call them, business operators, going that route because they don't know any different.
Right.
What I can't understand, and this is where I try and help people go in this route, is where they're going from a good proprietary security department to a contract security operation, and yet they don't want to pay for that service.
Well, they don't want to pay.
As we spoke before, they really believe that there's some sort of miracle supervision there or whatever it is.
It's okay to save money, but you can't cut your budget in half and expect service.
The same service.
Math's not there.
And you can't suddenly go from a security officer that's being paid $16 an hour with benefits to a security officer that's being paid $10 an hour, ask them to do the same job without supervision.
So if you're a contract guard operator and the client, you're billing the client $12.50 an hour, you're not sending a supervisor down there to pay attention to it. So what happens in an account like that? Well, how about a guard who worked part-time, knew his job was part-time, knew it was only 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday, but every Monday he went down to the unemployment office and filed an unemployment claim because he was unemployed between Monday and Friday.
I remember this one, yeah.
Remember this?
Yeah.
We had to answer those claims every single week.
Yeah.
And then people wonder why there's not enough money in the guard business, right? Guard smoking medical marijuana on duty.
Yeah.
Well, I pull into a gate. Here's the guard smoking marijuana. Pulls out his doctor's note. Says he's going to sue me.
Was that in-house or contract?
That was contract.
Okay.
Said he's going to sue me because he's got a note from his doctor.
I would have actually thought that could possibly be a proprietary.
It could be, yeah. Sleeping on duty. I came in one night and it was Christmas. I used to go around on Christmas and check posts. And here's a guard sitting at the desk. He looks all nice. I said, come on, I want to go on a walk with you. He steps up from behind the desk. All he has is uniform shirt. He's wearing sweats and slippers behind the desk. Where's the rest of your uniform? Well, I just kind of got out of bed and thought nobody would notice, So.
But again, most security officers want to do a good job.
They do.
No matter where they are.
And we need to talk about this. We need to raise the wage here on some of these things because I think that's part of it. Well, we could go on forever on each subject, but that's just kind of an overview on some of the stories and problems we have in the guard business. So I hope everybody found that enlightening. All right, so tune in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have head of Microsoft and Jim McDonald.
Jim McDonald, next sheriff of LA County.
Yeah. So join us on the web at securityguyradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. See you next week on Security Guy Radio.